I've played on teams that really didn't have a problem going up against Coach Belichick coach teams, be it in Cleveland, be it the Jets, be it the New England Patriots. So we've had great success. The teams that I was playing on, we've had great success. But when you get the backdrop and you look at what he did in the playoffs with the Giants as a D coordinator, holding a San Francisco 49er team with Jerry Rice and all those Hall of Famers to 3 points, shutting out Washington, and doing what they did to the Broncos, and he did it year after year. And then he goes in 1990 against the Buffalo Bills, who led the league in scoring, and he basically said, we're going to let Thurman Thomas, he runs for 1 million yards, well, that's okay.
Yep.
But we're not going to let Jim Kelly throw for 350.
Yep.
And we're going to punish those receivers. And when you look at him and you see it from that perspective, he says, okay, now it makes perfect sense. Now it makes perfect sense. Now we understand the fourth quarters why those teams can't score and allow Tom Brady to be Tom Brady and come from behind. Skip, I believe they go into a Saturday night meeting or a Saturday meeting, and Coach Belichick sits down and he says, Tom, this is what I would do. And this is where the weakness would be if they did that. That's something nobody else can do. He's the greatest. With knowing his backdrop as a defensive coordinator, he doesn't get nearly the credit that he deserves because he didn't have one of these historically great defenses. People still talk about the 85 Bears and the 46 defense led by Buddy Ryan. They talk about Marvin and the 2000 Ravens. They talk about the 02 Bucks. They talk about the 14 Seahawks or the 13 Seahawks. Skip, he doesn't have those. He did have LT, who's the greatest defensive player. But since in this Patriots run, he's only had 2 players to go to more than 2 Pro Bowls, Richard Seymour and Vince Wilfork.
Yep.
And see, I think the thing is what will get glossed over, if you don't have J.J. Watt, you don't have a Von Miller, you don't have one of these lockdown corners, your defense is not any good. But 10 times in 14 times in 17 seasons, he had a top 10 scoring defense.
Yep.
With that being said, with his defensive prowess, him as a head coach leading this team, and I know his history, Skip, Spygate's not going away, never going to go away. That's on his resume. It's hard for me to say that he's not the greatest coach to ever live, and he deserves more credit than whatever credit you give him for the success of the Patriots, you're shortchanging him.
Okay, so in Washington 30 for 30, I learned a lot that I already knew but had lost sight of, where you get the totality of it, the achievements that he and Parcells had together with the Giants, on top of what he's done in New England. He's a wizard. He's a savant. But I'm also going to make the case that he's been pretty fortunate because he's had 2 of the greatest business partners you could ever have. Bill Parcells, who was a defensive mastermind to start with.
He was.
And Belichick said last night early in the documentary, I learned everything I know from him to start with. He taught me everything when they went to the 3-4, how to coach the outside linebackers, the stand-up rushers. Yeah, so that came from Parcells.
And he said his coaching is just like Parcells.
Right.
No nonsense.
Yep, no nonsense. And they remind me of each other because
do.
they're the same sort of guy. They got a little scoundrel in both of them, just a little bit, but they got edge to them.
Both of them, let me see. My wallet here. Okay, my wallet.
Wait.
Everything good. Okay.
The best part of the documentary was they did each other dirty a couple of times.
Yes.
And it got a little dicey.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of peacefully coexist now. I don't know if they love each other. Brian Cox said at the end, no, they don't love each other.
Yeah.
But they like each other.
Yes.
They respect each other. But then he inherited he picked, I should say, the greatest business partner you could ever have is Tom Brady to me. So back to Joy's question about credit. I think he's getting enough credit because I feel like he gets more credit than Tom Brady does for the Patriot dynasty. So that's my final takeaway. But then back to this. Let's break down. You mentioned it. He had the greatest and the baddest defensive player there ever was in Lawrence Taylor. So it helps to have that guy.
Yes.
And that 86 defense, it doesn't get 85 Bears acclaim.
Right.
Maybe because the 85 Bears were still roaring, basically, without Buddy Ryan the next year, obviously.
Right.
But still, it got a little overlooked because if you saw in the 30 for 30, they were walking on the field like like Ray Lewis was. We got this, man, because we're just better.
They were loaded. They were loaded.
They were loaded, and they were extremely well coached. And a lot of that was he deserves more credit for some of those game plans. I thought Parcells did that.
But I thought the thing is, Skip, is that when you look at it, that they were a 3-4 team, and then in a playoff game, we're going to come out in a 4-man front. Okay, we're going to play all nickel.
That was stunning.
We're going to play dime.
Yeah, because that's shocking.
Yes. I mean, you might play that on third down, but to say we're going to base out of this and you do it from week to week, you must have very intelligent players, because most of the time you play what you play the entire season. If I'm a 3-4 team, I'm going to play 3-4, and then once we get into the nickel situation, we'll go down to a 4-man line. But Coach Belichick's like, nah, we're 3-4, but we might play a 4-man line for the entire game. Against Buffalo. 2 down linemen. LT said what Thurman Thomas was going to run for 9,000 yards. I don't care.
Didn't care. And Parcells also added the offensive component. We're going to shorten the game. We're going to control the clock. And we're going to keep Jim Kelly and company, the K-gun, off the field. And they did. And still,
Took a missed field goal.
It took a missed field goal by Scott Norwood wide right. It took that to survive 20-19. So I give you that. And to hold them to 19, that was pretty sensational.
But think about what they did in the 90 championship, because I believe had the 49ers gotten there, they would have been the first team to three-peat in Super Bowl. And they went there and they beat them. 15-13. 15-13, because they were down 13-12. And Roger Craig gets the first down. It's all for naught. Not only did he not get the first down, he fumbled the ball. LT gets it, and they kick a walk-off field goal.
15-13.
15-13,
yeah. I got you. So I give you all that, but it was a joint venture with Parcells. So I'm with you. So then he becomes a head coach and goes to Cleveland, and it wasn't great.
No.
They had 4 losing seasons out of 5, made the playoffs once, and then he gets fired, and then he winds up, after all the hocus pocus that went on, he winds up in New England in the first year, 5-11, and he had a lot of Parcells guys that he inherited. So he had a core of Parcells guys.
You said no. When he got fired, he ended up going to New England as a defense coach.
But I'm saying I'm skipping all the steps.
Okay.
But when he finally becomes the head coach again in New England, he inherited a lot of Parcells picks. Teddy Bruschi and Ty Law and
you know what, Skip? If you think about it, once he found that Coach Belichick, that Mr. Kraft wanted to talk to him, I think the reason why he did what he did, he found out that Coach Parcells didn't give him the facts, didn't give him the information.
He did not.
And he's probably thinking, okay, what's to say that you said you're retired now and I'm the head coach? What's to say you don't come in the year and fire me so you become the head coach again?
But he had 3 more years left on his Jets contract, and he wanted out, and he wanted to go to New England. And
because he didn't trust, at that point, he didn't trust Coach Parcells. That's what that was mainly about. He didn't trust Coach Parcells at that point. And it was great because he said the agreement that I have with the previous owner, Mr. Hess, I don't know these 2 guys.
Didn't know those 2 guys. And yet Robert Kraft said in the documentary he was about a minute away from hiring Dom Capers to be his next head coach when Belichick managed to maneuver out from under the contract because Parcells called and said, okay, I'll let you do this, but you're going to pay for it with draft pick compensation.
But remember what Mr. Kraft said. He said the league told him that Parcells with the Jets would be great for the NFL. Mr. Kraft said, I feel that the NFL hasn't been on the up and up.
He said it isn't as pure as I first thought. It was a big shot fired, man.
He wasn't just talking about this NFL. This was Commissioner Tagliabue at the time.
It was. He was disillusioned by it.
They're going to be upset with you, Mr. Kraft.
You're
not supposed to let out those.
Well, after he remember after he folded his 10 in Deflategate and tried to take one for the league, right? And then when he realized he got busted for a first and a third round pick, but $1 million fine. Then he turned back around and said, "How dare you?" You know.
He said,
I was a fool.
He said, "I knew I shouldn't have trusted."
Okay. So to conclude on Bill Belichick, so he goes to New England, he goes 5-11, and then he goes 0-2, and Drew Bledsoe faithfully gets hurt by Mo Lewis, and out of the heavens falls the 6th round draft pick, and the rest is dynastic history. Well, again, all those moves, you know, there's no Richard. I mean, you got Richard Seymour and Will Fork, as you talked about. So you don't have any Pro Bowlers except those guys who made 2.
Yeah.
Right? 2
Well, they
multiples.
They made 5. They made at least 5.
Yeah, more than 2.
Right, correct.
Okay. So you have 2 defensive stars, and the rest are just mixed and matched spare parts. You just mix and match them.
Right.
But you can get away with that when you have a quarterback that you know if it gets close in the fourth quarter, he's going to pull it out for you.
Well, you know the Patriots were 5th in scoring defense. The Eagles were 6th. Now, we're talking about the Eagles and how that defense and how they rushed the passer, but they gave up more points than the no-name Patriots. And that's what we see here. We talk about LT's in the Hall of Fame, Harry Carson's in the Hall of Fame, but there's not a whole lot of those other guys that we really know. In the early years of those defenses, I mean, yeah, Willie McGinnis went to a few Pro Bowls. Ty Law was one of the top cornerbacks at the time. That was great for them to say, you know what, Kurt Warner, you're not going anywhere. We're going to play 2-man. That's all we're going to play. We're going to make you fit it in, and we're going to jam Marshall Faulk.
And we are going to get extremely physical with your little wideouts. And we're going to bust them up, and they're not going to like it because they don't get treated like this.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, it became a game. They hung in there.
There's nothing pure in this world.
No,
you know? The NFL. When I think of the NFL, I really think of, like, you know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, Mr. Kraft, you said them all good things about Coach. You said them good things about Coach Belichick, but he got that side eye on you.
Listen,
Yeah, but when I wanted to make that move, that ain't what you did.
it's competition. All is fair in love and war, right?
Yeah.
I think we're going to see another documentary in the future. Robert Kraft told Bill Belichick to trade Jimmy G.
Yeah.
We'll see. Is Tom Brady the most clutch athlete ever? We'll discuss that next.